Hey freight agents, are you tired of being held back? Since 2012, Tallgrass Freight has built a proven track record at the top-tier independent freight agent network, and we're just getting started. Here, our agents get the best of both worlds, the freedom to be true entrepreneurs paired with the full support of a company that has their back, uncapped commission, zero territory restrictions, and a world-class back office. At Tallgrass, you're never just a number. You're part of a network that values independence, celebrates success, and invests in your future. Whether you're a solo agent or leading a team, Tallgrass gives you the tools, transparency, and flexibility to grow your business on your terms. No corporate red tape, no micromanaging, just freedom, support, and unlimited potential. To join our team, visit tallgrassfreight.com/podcast. That's tallgrassfreight.com/podcast. Welcome to the Recruiting Stories Podcast, where we celebrate recruiting by exploring the stories of leaders and top performers by digging into their stories and understanding how recruiting has impacted their journey and their success. Welcome to the next edition of the Recruiting Stories Podcast. I'm excited to have Jordan Brady with us. Welcome, Jordan.
Thanks, Adrian. I'm excited. This has been something I've wanted to do. So when it came up, I was excited to say yes.
Awesome. Cool. I'm thrilled to have you. So Jordan is the Senior Director of Agent Development for Tallgrass Freight. And Jordan and I, we've over 10 years now.
Literally. Yeah. Yeah.
Crazy. I don't know if that says, I think that just means that I'm old is what that is. We were talking about kids offline here.
Right.
We knew each other before we were parents and all of that. But yeah, man, that's so crazy. Time flies when you're having fun, I guess. So
it really does. I was just almost a year out of school when I had started at eShipping where we met. So yeah, and here we are 10, almost 11 years later.
So crazy. Okay, so Jordan obviously leads agent development with Tallgrass.
Yes.
Let's talk a little bit about some of your recruiting story, both how you got into freight, but also I know you're a former student athlete. I know that's been helpful for you in your career as well. And obviously I can relate to that. So tell me a little bit about that, because you were one of my great rivals in college, being a Northwest State Bearcat. So tell me about that.
Yeah. So I was actually a JUCO transfer. I started at Coffeyville Community College with them.
I knew that.
It was, honestly, the best 2 years. I loved it from a academic and a sports side of stuff. Being able to continue my volleyball career was huge. I was also the first in my family to go to college. My dad technically went to KU for a semester, but, decided to come back home. And so that was a huge accomplishment. That was something to not only be able to go to school, but be able to continue my volleyball career. And honestly, looking back at it, I'm glad I did volleyball, but being, 5'3" doesn't exactly fit the volleyball mold most of the time. But I was blessed to be able to continue on there. And then, transferred over to Northwest Missouri State, played for them for 2 years to finish out my academic side of stuff. That's where I met my husband. We've been together almost 12 years, which is amazing. Love that. But it was good. It was something that, taught me discipline very early on, going into something that is very structured, having that routine, staying up with, weights and academics as well. Still being able to do that piece. I actually graduated with a zoology degree and an emphasis in science.
No way.
Yeah. And had a minor in psychology. So obviously doing nothing with my degree. My parents loved that for the first, 5-6 years of my career. But hey, it worked out.
What did you want to do? What did you want to do with that?
I honestly wanted to do more of the animal behavior side of stuff. I wanted to work with zoos specifically. I did really look into getting into that right out of school, but learned very early on that a lot of that is grandfathered in. You had to do a lot of different work during summers with internships or different pieces. And I was on campus for volleyball. I put that forth put that first. And so it kind of shot me in the foot at the time is what I thought. But
Yeah.
at the end of the day, like looking back, it's the path that I took and that ended me, where I'm at with my career now. And I have no regrets. So I kind of jumped into an opportunity with either a marketing firm or going into the veterinarian tech kind of side of stuff, which meant I would have to go back to school and do all of that. And I just really wasn't in that headspace to continue school. I didn't really want to go that route with it, knowing that I would need more schooling. I did some, kind of sit-ins and walkthroughs, and most of the stuff that they were excited about or get to do on a daily basis just wasn't something that I was being pulled towards. And so I decided to go with the marketing firm that ended more in a sales role. And so kind of started to dive into sales. And when I got into that, I actually met an employee of my first position at eShipping. And he was like, I don't know if they're, working or if they're opening up any positions in their sales team, but I think you would be great at it. He was like, if you could sell me anything, then why not? So I ended up applying. I was actually looking to get out of that current situation. And so it happened the time that I needed it to. So I applied. And Sean Richardson, our president, was actually the first person that hired me. Weirdly enough, it just, again, people are put in your lives for those reasons. And so when the opportunity came up at Tallgrass, I knew at the time like who was here as a executive staff, that I've known them for years. I knew how they operated. I respected them. So I knew that if I was going to make a jump from being with a company that I have loved and cherished for almost 8 years, or I guess 6 or 7 years at the time. I knew that if I was going to make that leap, then I wanted it to be with somebody that I again knew I respected in the industry and would know that they had my best interests at heart too. That's always a challenge when you pick up and leave something or change paths or companies. It's always that kind of thought process of like, okay, if I take this chance, there's an opportunity, there's maybe something that I don't like about it. Or it could be something that you love. You hear those stories from people. And I was glad I was given that opportunity to leap into this role here. And I've loved it ever since. So it was that one sale that turned into a almost 11-year friendships, relationships that have been built. Like me and you, right? Like we've known each other since those days as well. And so it's just continued to evolve and develop from there in the best way possible.
That's so crazy. So, okay. Volleyball.
Yeah.
Were you like highly recruited out of high school, or was it like I'm really trying to like do the JUCO route because I want to go to a D1 school, or like what was that situation like?
That's a great question. I had several opportunities. Most of them were either NAIA. There was a handful of D2. One was actually down in Florida. And then I had a handful of the same conference for JUCO. There was Cali, that whole Neosho was in that same conference, and did a lot of tours and ended up just feeling most confident with Coffeyville. Speaking of, I feel like talking through this, my whole life is built off of relationships, but the coach at the time, she's still a huge influence in my life. She was actually a niece of my mom's best friend in high school.
Okay.
Didn't know that until we got there for a college visit. And had asked if if she was related to this person, and she was like, actually, yeah, that's my uncle, and my mom was like, that was my best friend in in high school, like we still talk to this day. And so it just kind of gave that last push of like, again, I knew I would be taken care of if I ever needed something. I knew that I would be able to go to people and say, hey, like I'm not comfortable, or I need to adjust this, or I'm loving this, and it just kind of pushed me into that side of it. Again, being in that volleyball realm, it is I guess it's across all sports. It was kind of one of those like, oh, like you're going to a JUCO kind of thing, but realistically, a lot of D1 athletes go that route because they're getting more playing time, they're getting more exposure. I loved my 2 years there. I made friends that I still have friends to this day. They were in my wedding. We still talk all the time. So you make those lifelong relationships, and then going into the D2 realm, I kind of knew what I was getting into. And at the time, JUCO really didn't have any regulations. So, me and another girl was from Fort Scott, which was also in our conference. So we had actually played against each other, and we're sitting here and we're like, man, like you guys have no idea. We were running after games. We were, sprints at till 10 p.m. Like there was no regulations at JUCO at that time. And so it really did put into perspective of just like the discipline that somebody, has to have going into those types of sports and stuff like that too, if you really wanted to achieve those goals. So, it was great. And, looking at the Northwest side, they had the degree that I wanted. I was very determined to complete that degree. Realistically, I probably should have listened to my dad and go through the business route. He's since dropped that, but even, for 6 years after school, he was like, you should get your business degree. You should get your business degree. And I was like, it's not going to help me. I'm going to do this, but it's not going to put me in debt for school.
Is he in business?
So he's an engineer. So none of my family's in business. My sister is an OT, and my brother actually graduates this weekend with to go into PT school. So so both very different. But I had no school debt. I was, going through that and was blessed with, parents that did help me in certain situations, but also had academic and scholarships for sports. And so I just was like, I really don't want to add to the school debt. I don't have any right now. So why not? And it's been okay to not have.
A lot of people don't get that. So that's a huge deal. And I love the story just because for me, on the psychology of recruiting side of things, just for you, it was kind of like, okay, having a relationship there that was kind of almost like a built-in relationship to the JUCO side. And then just because I think through what makes people move, what makes people go somewhere. And for you on the obviously you wanted to compete at a high level. Northwest is a great athletics program, always has been. But then you also had your degree that you were looking for too. It had a combination of hey, we can help you get to where you want to go.
Right. Yeah. Everybody just makes you feel like at home too, you'll go on these recruiting visits and you can get a sense of, am I going to be okay here? Right. And when I say okay, I mean, taken care of, listened to, I wasn't going far from home, but at the same time, it's not like I could just, pick up and be home in 20 minutes kind of thing. If something was going wrong, and you are fully jumping into owning your own life for the first time. Coming from a very great home, and having that stability. It is nerve-wracking, but it's also exciting. And so I knew what I needed to do and to be able to achieve what I did at that time. And so there was a lot of that just sense of, will I be good here? Will I be able to achieve what I want to achieve while still being able to build the friendships and the relationships that I was, very hopeful for. And then again, met my husband, at Northwest. And so he played baseball. Yeah. Nice. So he played baseball. And so it kind of worked out that we both lived 10 minutes from each other and had no idea until we met in college. Cool. So, it's kind of just one of those, I'll never forget it. I was just struggling with the athletic side of stuff during some of that final season. And my grandma was just like, you know what, it doesn't even matter how everything ends. It's all about, maybe you were choosing that because of 1-year degree. Again, I was the first person to graduate on that side from college. And then, my grandma was talking about how I met my husband. For her to say that, if you knew her, for her to say that was a huge thing. And so I knew that, I was on the right path there and just needed to continue to, honestly, I did look at transferring going into my senior year and just wasn't seeing eye to eye with everything. But knew that, after several conversations that it was my path to stay and continue through all of that piece and just do what I was set out to do in the first place.
That's super cool. Yeah, no, it's amazing how when you look back on your college career, 99% of us we walk off with a loss, right? We don't walk off winning a championship. So at some point, 99% of us walk off as a loss. And, we also, most of us, as a commercial say, we go pro in something other than sports. And so you leave kind of like with a little bit of a sour taste in your mouth.
Yeah.
Athletics,
Yeah.
it's weird because you're like, I'm better at this sport than most people, but now I have to do something else with my life. And
Right.
that's a
Right.
weird emotion to kind of
Yeah.
wrestle and deal with. But then you have to
Yeah.
translate that into a career and look back and be like, actually though, so much good came from that experience. And I
Right.
if you can allow yourself, sometimes it takes time. I think it's like a process of letting the athlete in you die to some degree, and that's a
100%.
process. I'm not saying that I know how to do it or did it well because I didn't.
Right. Yeah.
Um, but I think everybody goes through it, I guess is what I'm
Yeah.
getting at. So
Yeah.
yeah,
No,
that's good.
absolutely.
That's cool. Okay, real quick on that before we jump to freight. Did you
Yeah.
have any bad recruiting trips? Like ones that you were like, this place is terrible. I'm not going. You don't have to name the school, but I know I had a couple where I was like, yeah, definitely not going here.
Yeah, no, there was two specifically where we got there and it was just kind of one of those like, yeah, no, this isn't for me within like the first 10 minutes of getting there, but
Mhm.
you're kind of stuck and you don't want to be rude because they're
Give them all this
bringing you
way.
out, like it's kind of on their dime kind of thing. So it's kind of one of
Right,
those situations where this is not going to be, I mean, it's similar to being in an interview now
yep,
where I'm interviewing an agent. And I'm like, yeah, we're 5 minutes and 10 minutes into this. And I'm like, this isn't gonna
yeah,
work out, but I'll see it through, right? Maybe something
right,
changes. Maybe something comes
right,
out of it where I can at least pull that. At the time with recruiting, it's you want to pull that to negotiate with the next person or whatever it might be. But yeah,
mhm.
there was a few within the first 10 minutes where I was like, this just I don't know how you guys recruit anybody here, but you got a
Right.
good program. It's obviously working for some people, just not me.
No, no doubt. I remember there was two places specifically, for me where, uh, like it was so disorganized, and then
Hmm.
also like when I
Yes.
got there, the coaches were like, "So who are you?" and like, "What's your name again?" And I was just
Right.
like, no, like if
Yeah.
you don't
Like,
know who I am, like I've got other places who are like they've already offered me scholarships, they've treated me really well, and if you like you
right.
don't even like clearly, and that's okay. Like if I'm not that, you've got your, you know, that's okay. But that does not make me feel valued at all. Like when it's
A
disorganized and you
hundred
don't know
percent.
who I am. So I don't know.
No,
That's so funny. I
absolutely.
always some stories I've heard out there are pretty rough. But okay, so then okay, so you said you jumped into like you said I'm not gonna work at a zoo. I don't want to go back to school, and that was similar to that because like I was like
Yeah.
first I was gonna be a teacher, and I was like I don't want to be in a classroom for the rest of my life, and then I was like well maybe I'll
Hmm.
be like I like the idea of like being a doctor and helping people, but then I was like I would be in school for 19 years, and I don't
Yeah.
want to do that. So
Yeah.
I was like okay, I kind of ended up in the sports business world was where my degree went. But marketing is kind of where you started.
Hmm.
And then you met somebody at e-shipping, if I remember all of
Correct.
that right. Right.
Yep.
Okay. Did you ever imagine that like logistics would be a place that you would work in?
Not at all. I mean, it wasn't even a thought in my mind, like at the time, right? Like now driving, I'm like, oh, I wonder where that truck's going, or hey, like,
Yeah, right.
are any of our agents working with these carriers? You also have this newfound like respect for drivers on the road kind of thing.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And so at the time, no, I didn't realize that this was even a realm to be in for a job, let alone
Mm-hmm.
people doing it, right? But obviously, yeah, things need to go A to B, and it makes the world go around in all of the ways. But yeah,
Yeah.
that wasn't on my radar. When that individual had, presented me with the company name and the opportunity, and just to at least see if they were hiring. I did some extensive just like deep dive research into the company at the time, and
Mm-hmm.
it was really looking at what was it, right? Because I had no idea, but I knew that I wanted to get out of what I was currently doing. I liked sales.
Yeah.
I didn't mind jumping into that. I actually found that I was really good at it. And so just, wasn't the company for me. And so I was just like, why not? Let's see what it's about. And then took that interview and really loved what everyone had to say. And, it seemed like a very genuine opportunity at the time too. And it was, but it
Mm-hmm.
was just one of those things where it was like, I'm just out of college. I
Mm-hmm.
graduated in 2016, and it was that December that I ended up getting hired on into e-shipping. And so
Mm-hmm.
I was like, at this point, like I'm young enough that if I change my mind, then maybe something else will come up. But it's one of those things that if you would have asked me then, I wouldn't have seen myself doing this, 10, 11
Yeah.
years later. But the trajectory that went on, took me from a sales team to build a book of business into a domestic freight with international freight. Did that, then, jumped into the
Mm-hmm.
warehousing piece. And then now here I am helping others do exactly that. So it's
That's
just
so
kind of
cool.
been that first stepping stone that I just didn't
Mm-hmm.
know what would take me into.
That's so cool. Yeah, I mean, to eShipping's credit, nothing but great things to say about eShipping. I felt like, especially kind of early on there in those years, especially the culture
Yeah,
that they talked about was really real, and just like the opportunity felt like that was such an attractive thing to so
100%.
many people. And
Yeah.
you met people there, and it was kind of like, oh man, like this is not only is that like when you say, hey, we have a great culture, like it was like, oh man, it really is. There's great people here.
Absolutely.
So,
Yeah. And that's what really attracted me at the time, just because that's what I wasn't receiving, previously. It was
hmm
very much just, do your job. This was it. If you don't hit your
hmm
numbers, like then, you're just not the person or not the person for us. And it was just very, it was more cutthroat, which is fine, right? Sales is, and that is just the business that we're in. But, you should still be able to be able to find, good things in people and of the way the company operates. And that first company for me just wasn't it. And so that's exactly why, I was like, this is going to be a good opportunity because of the culture that was being sold.
hmm
And it was, I still have people there that I talk to on a daily basis, even not being there for, the past 3-4 years. But
Yeah.
it's one of those stepping stones again that took me into
hmm
the trajectory that I'm at now.
Yeah, it's such a cool. Your story is really cool to me because I mean, I talk with, obviously, we place people from executive level down to entry level in transportation, but
For sure.
so many times when I talk with like a young guy or gal, maybe they want the moon and the stars right out of the gate, and I'm just like, sometimes it's just literally getting your foot in the door. Like
Yeah,
you got to start somewhere and learn, and I could
absolutely.
point to the Jordan Brady of the world to be like, hey man, if you start here, you might be an international, you might be a warehouse, you might then be on the broker. Like there's so many
Yeah.
different options that
Oh,
you
yeah.
really, I mean, freight's a $1 trillion industry, right? Like,
Yeah,
there's a lot of opportunity to go around, a lot of different
absolutely.
niches in there to dig into. So okay,
Yeah.
we were talking about culture. Talk about culture with Tallgrass, right? So you're kind of helping
Yeah.
like build that culture and like define and help agents grow their books of business, help grow their own
Yeah.
little businesses. How does that look in a place that, in my mind, might feel, I think the pushback from some people might feel like, okay, well, how can we create a culture if we're maybe siloed? How do you
100%.
guys do that? Because I feel like you guys do a great job, but I don't think most people understand how you
Yeah.
guys do that.
Oh no, well, thank you. Yeah, Tallgrass, that is the very first thing that I noticed when I came on with him was just the culture of it. We do have a home office, obviously, here in Shawnee, Kansas, but we are coast to coast and everywhere in between with our agents. We've continued to grow and add more in little hubs, but at the same time, like we are 96% remote for all of our agents. We do have a few here in Kansas City, some that choose to come into the office and then others that don't, and that's okay. That's kind of what I like is that it's not forced, like if these people want to come in and interact, then we're more than welcome or, opening with the arms here for them to do that, but also understand that they are running their own business at the end of the day.
Mhm.
That was a change of mindset for me was coming from a W-2, like everyone has the same, recommendations or all these things in place, but being a 1099 contracted agent, it is different. How you talk to people, how you interact with them, the recommendations versus being told. It's a
Yeah.
very different mindset. And so I think Tallgrass has really encompassed that and understands that we're here and we will give you all of the resources and everything that somebody needs to be truly successful with running their own business through our brokerage. But at the same time, you are running a business. They are the CEO, they're the president, they're everything in between through the janitor. That's kind of the mindset that we are hoping to instill in these agents, and really help them grow with that. But at the same time, wanting to have that cohesion of, as one company. You have your own LLC, but you're powered by that Tallgrass name. So what does that Tallgrass name mean to them, right? And we do a lot of different events. We actually started one this year, which has been tremendous, in just the efforts to get out in front of our agents and really, again, build that relationship bonding piece. We started many roundtables. We've done, Arizona. We've been in Florida and Houston. We've got plans for June and July to go to Portland and Tennessee. And that's just the first half of the year. So they're quicker trips, but they're these, very select group of the people that are in these hubs. Like, we're trying to find places where a lot of people are at least within, driving distance. And it's just dedicated time to hear from them. It has nothing to do with, here's what Tallgrass is doing. Here's all the fun things that we've got going on. It's purely, what do you want to see from us? How do we continue to partner with you? What are you loving? What would cause you to leave? Talking through that. We understand our agents are getting calls day in and day out from literally everyone under the sun. And that's just the name of the game, again, being in the brokering side. So when it comes to that, like, we want to know, like, what would make people want to stay. And we're even doing that internally with our HR team. And she's doing a great job of just figuring out, like, what does it take to keep the culture from an internal level and then expand that out to an external level to our agents. And I think we've just really dived into, how do we continue to develop as a whole, even though, quote unquote, our back office is smaller. But I mean, if you look at us from an agent perspective, they're our customers, and how do we keep our customers is kind of where we're at. And so I love that they've really taken on an active role the past few years of diving into, again, what will make people leave, what will make people stay, and how do we continue to grow together versus, here's everything we have to offer for you. Great, do with it what you please, which some agent programs do, not to talk ill will on any others. Everyone has their own, pros and cons, same with Tallgrass. But I think that we do a really good job of trying to partner with our agents more on a level that they want to be. And it's very customized versus just blanket rate across the board of, here's what we offer, here's what you get, and we kind of wipe our hands from there.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I love the idea of you talk about agent support and culture, like the idea of those roundtables, because for each of these persons, they're building their own business, and so each of them, I mean, the whole goal is like, how can we help one another win, right? And so obviously you guys are helping each other, helping them with back office and technology and support. But at the same time, sometimes that face-to-face with other agents is like, man, you're doing something great over here. What does that look like? And can we sharpen one another? And that sharpening, I think, so many times on the agents that I've talked to, is like, you pick up just a little bit of something and it can become, a multi-million-dollar opportunity or account, because you're like, I could have been doing this, but I picked it up from somebody, and it's helped my business in a big way. So
no, I'm glad you said that, because our agents do an amazing job of being just open with other agents and sharing what their wins are looking like, sharing what their loses are looking like. Our agent base, I think, is probably one of the best, just because of the type of people that we also look to recruit. Like, when we are recruiting, we want, the book, or we want the agent to have experience and stuff, but we're also looking for that culture fit. Are they going to be somebody that comes in, contributes in that positive manner, respects and treats people with that professionalism, not only for customers and carriers, but back office team, other agents, stuff like that. Our agents are more than, willing to jump on a call with another agent and say, hey, here's what I'm doing. I heard you were struggling here, or the team forums, or the, monthly connections that we do, the roundtable we host in Kansas City, these mini roundtables. There's tons of opportunities that come up throughout the year, from a a in-person side of stuff, from a virtual side of stuff, from a marketing, reaching out to you, wanting to be a part of something. And they're always willing to help, and they're more than willing to share information too. Like, they know that if I share a customer name, another agent on this call isn't going to go and call them, and nobody, the way that our CRM is set up, I mean, it's your book of business. Nobody else has access. So you could have your book in there and, be calling somebody that I'm working with and have no idea. And that the hope, and obviously the relationship side of it's huge. So as that customer telling you, hey, I'm already working with Jordan at Tallgrass, that agent stands down without even having to be asked. It's one of those things that we've built our culture around, that mutual respect, to understand the grind, if from my side, understanding and respecting the fact of like the cold call and the grind that I know you're doing, but then you having that mutual respect back, saying, totally understand, so sorry for reaching out, no problem, like wish you the best kind of thing. So that's always a huge thing, I think, of just the culture that's built, because there are a lot of those cutthroat stories that you hear, even on the recruiting side, hey, I'm looking to leave because they gave my biggest customer, because it reached this threshold and they moved it to an account executive or whatever the title might be. And it's taking away that business from somebody that built it. And so for us, that's something we stand on. And if we have to jump in, we absolutely will. But I'm glad to say, like, it doesn't happen very often, if at all. And so it's just, again, that mutual respect that our agents have for each other, and understanding the grind in the business, but also, hey, we're all trying to achieve the same thing as a company.
Yeah, that made me think of, for us, for the agents that we've moved over the years, or we've seen move over the years, or move from W-2 into agency. Like, one of the common themes that I see is exactly what you said. Sometimes it's like, hey, I brought on X account. It was so big, they took it off of my plate, and now I don't get anything for it moving forward. That's one. And then obviously someone who's just like, hey, I've grown to a point where it's just like, if I were to take this to an agency split versus what I'm doing, I would make so much more. Like, those are 100%. Typically two of the main things, outside of like the independent, quote unquote, that you can see running your own book. But let me ask you that then. Like, what do you see? What kind of person succeeds as an agent versus who doesn't?
Oh, for sure. Somebody that succeeds is just somebody that's willing to do the grind. This is not a typical 9 to 5, 8 to 5, whatever, the normal work day is for people. The logistics is a 24-hour kind of thing. Even for people in the back office like ourselves, where we have built that to where we're still available if any of our agents need us, and understanding that a lot of us are working, again, coast to coast. So even though we're in the Midwest, we've got agents that are, 2 hours behind us that may still need something at, 5, 6 p.m. And going through that. And so somebody that comes in and is willing to do the day-to-day grind, especially when they're starting from scratch due to a non-solicit, jumping back in, non-compete, whatever it might have been, those are the people that see success. And we've recently this year have had multiple stories of that, which is great to see. Kind of those people just come out of the woodworks and really take off and own that. Ownership is huge. Again, having that CEO mentality of, I'm a business owner, not just, well, I'm a broker and, here's what it is. Those are the kind of people that take off. The people that we typically don't see work out is usually the opposite of that. They may make a handful of calls here and there. They may lean on some relationships that they thought they had, previously. And then when those don't really come to the forefront of stuff, realizing that the mentality to start over just isn't there. And, they typically do fizzle out. The brokering side of being contracted, it's very much you eat what you kill. And I am very honest in my interviews with people on that of, there's no payouts on that commission side for agent splits if there's no freight on the board. And sometimes people realize that maybe this just isn't exactly for them. And that's okay too, right? Like, not everybody is going to be a good fit for it. Sales is hard. Sales is not an easy position to be in, regardless of what industry you're in. And so if somebody has that grit, that grind, that mentality of like, I'm going to do anything that I can to make this happen, those are the people that are going to have success. The sales is not a wait for it to come to you situation. Like it is you create your own opportunities. Our founder Damon is a huge piece for that. I mean, if you need anybody to talk to on what it takes, it doesn't matter. I just heard, Sean mentioned the other day to a consultant we had come in that, Damon said, if it all burned down to the ground, give me 3 months and I can get back up to a $30,000-$60,000 book of business. I mean, that's the mentality that somebody has to have, that if this all burned down to the ground, can I rebuild this in 30, 60, 90-day increments, right? And so those are the type of people that we do see success, the go-getters, the nonstop on it, the people that have that mentality, and the ones that come in thinking that it'll just kind of happen when it does, and maybe it will. It just isn't, the right opportunity, at least for our type of platform, that we have, and that's okay too.
Yeah, and that's so good. And I agree, because there's so many times where, there's folks I've talked to over the years, and maybe they have a decent book, maybe they've been operating on it for a while, but you could tell they haven't sold for a while.
Yeah.
Right. And it's like, if you're wanting to live off of that, it's like, hey, you might be able to for a little bit, but if it burns down, if that account goes or whatever, what are you going to do? And how are you going to eat after that? And that's why I would try to challenge people, is just kind of, and even questions that sometimes I ask, when's the last new account that you closed, or something like that, just to kind of get an idea. And it's amazing. Sometimes, people man, it's also shocking that maybe you've had a decent sized book and you haven't closed something in a while.
Yeah.
But it helps you kind of figure out kind of, if someone's a producer or not. So
100%. We say it's always a matter of when, not if, in this industry. It is a matter of when. The when might not be as dramatic, but it's going to happen at some point. Sometimes something will change. And how does somebody respond to that? And did they prepare for that or not?
Right. And I mean, and this is where, I always look about people who have consistent habits are the ones that I see who have the most success, right? I mean, they're the same people who are like, you get up and you go to the gym at the same time. You make cold calls still, and that's scheduled into your day. It's just when I look at how you structure things in your life, you're a disciplined person. And I'm not saying that you have to be I wake up at 3:30 in the morning. I'm not saying that, right? Everybody needs margin in their life, but there's signs that say, hey, this person has some consistency, discipline. They've done it over a long period of time, and there's fruit based off of that that you can see. So,
absolutely.
I wanted to jump over and ask you. Obviously, Jordan's been in freight transportation for over 10 years. She's a female in freight for over 10 years, and now in leadership. I think that's unique. What's that been like? And do you think that there's opportunity for women in transportation moving forward? And do you see it better or worse than it's been? Tell me a little bit about that.
Yeah, no, full transparency, it's not the easiest part, right? This has always kind of been, and that's just the honest truth of it. The industry has been male dominant for so long, but it's great to see that we have a lot of female executives stepping into roles, females that are stepping into different opportunities on a wide scale. It used to be just the sales side, and there was that stigma of it's full truth. Again, sometimes being on the phone with an older male individual, the woman's probably going to have a little bit more of an advantage talking to him than another male. That's just how the world worked, right? Now it's a little bit more diverse and stuff like that. Everyone's a little bit more open to the conversations and going through that piece. But at the time, it definitely, it's evolved since I first started, for sure. And it's great to see that there are a lot more conferences that are happening that are more towards women in the industry, and how can we continue to pull through on, again, different opportunities from executive levels, from entry levels, from in-betweens, and really working through just kind of the diversification that the industry has started to go. There's still probably some of that, listening to a female give you this perspective on some of the individuals that have been in the industry for years and years, right? And there's always going to be some of that to just the listening point of me having the same idea as somebody else. But thankfully I haven't really experienced a lot of those roadblocks. Again, I speak very highly of any company that I've worked with so far in this industry, and have really appreciated just the opportunities that have been presented, despite, again, being a female in the industry. So I would maybe consider myself a little more lucky in some of those pieces than maybe somebody else. And so, it's definitely, though, a perspective that you think of in some conversations, of just being more in the know, I guess you could say, of having one conversation and somebody wanting somebody else to give them the exact same answer. That still happens sometimes, but it is what it is, kind of thing. But I am proud of what I've done so far in this industry, being a female in the industry. When people ask me all the time, like, what do you do? It's kind of one of those things where you give them the answer and they're like, wait, what? Like, cause they just don't expect you. They're like, wait, that's again, like, that's how I was when I started, right? They're like, that's a job, and it's not something that they hear a lot of. Or you think the trucking industry and you think of all the male drivers that are out there. You think of all of the, my LinkedIn's full of all of the guys that, sell the trucks. My brother-in-law is part of Kenworth, and he's one of their executives or their branch managers, and is very successful in it. But that's just how the industry goes. It's mainly men. And so it's always a prideful moment. So when somebody asks me what I do and I get to say, I'm a senior director in this position, it is prideful. And it's one of those situations where you just feel it gives you the confidence that, just do this. Like, if I can make it in this kind of industry that is male dominant, right? What else can I do?
Yeah, no, you should be. You should be proud of it, and that's why I wanted to ask about it. And to add to that, like, speak to the young lady who is out there, who is early in her career, who's like, I'm in carrier sales, and like, do I really want to be in freight, or should I even consider a career in freight? Like, what advice would you give to that young lady if you were speaking to her?
No, that's a great question. The simplest piece would just be keep going. Do the research into it, figure out, where you specifically, for your personality, for your, traits that you have, and figure out where they fit into those types of conversations. I taught myself very early on in the sales piece how to work those traits, work that personality piece. I took every conversation that I had on a sales call and a cold call and a conversation in a meeting, and really worked on the verbiage that I use, the tone that I use, the confidence in what I was saying, and learned that if I had those things speaking, then more people would be willing to listen in that, and on the days that, seem questionable, trust me, I've had plenty over the years of like, is this what I really want to do? Do I really want to continue taking, the brunt of things? Or, when I was dealing with customers, and obviously in my role now, I'm not as much, but when I was dealing with customers, I mean, there was days where I was just like, why am I doing this? Like, why do I take it in the teeth for, what I'm doing now? But the biggest advice that I can say is just keep going. Figure out where, again, your traits, where your personality can come out, and where you will thrive in those types of situations, and then step up in those situations. Take the opportunity that's given to you, and ask for more of those responsibilities, ask for more ways to continue to learn and develop. There's so many things out there now that people are doing for, different conferences, different sales trainings, different ways to just, again, better yourself. Whether that be on a personal level, on a professional level. That's been a huge, I think, piece in my journey through this, of seeing the success that I've had, or moving into the promotions that I've had throughout my career in different modes and different, places. But that's kind of been a reoccurring thing, thinking on this and preparing for, this conversation. I kind of sat back and was like, okay, what would I tell myself when I first started? Because there was a lot of those moments of just like, what am I doing? Is freight like really the listening to these truck drivers talk, or, listening to our carrier, our capacity team go back and forth? I was like, man, there's no filters, there's none this, but my personality was also kind of like that. So it was more of like, test those boundaries, test those limits, like see where you can fit in and mold in with or gel, I guess I should say, in those situations. But also staying true to yourself and your desires, your wants, the passions that you have. There's different ways to incorporate that. I just did that actually last year, where I took a proposal to our executive team and said, hey, this is kind of what I want to do going into this year. I love being able to work with our agents that are 0 to 6 months. And that's been the core of what I've done. That's my job, my responsibilities, right? But there's an untapped place that we're not taking advantage of with the agents up to 2 years. And here's where I think I can step in and help them. So, if it wasn't for that, of me just having the confidence to put my first business proposal together, and using that, to go in, I wouldn't be in the position I'm in right now, at least not, as soon as or as quickly as I did. And I'm thankful for that, for sure.
Oh, I love that. There is obviously, it's like you've built brick by brick and kind of built off of success and sometimes failure, and then built some courage, I think. And I love that. I think it's a great story, and it's good advice at the same time too. Just to say keep going, and to keep moving forward, because there's so many. I think there's always an opportunity to quit, right? That's the easiest way out.
Yeah.
But when you say, hey, I'm going to commit to something, even when it's hard, there's a lot of fruit that comes on the other side of it. Just like you talked about in your athletics career.
Yeah.
There's a lot of fruit that came out of that, just like you talked about in your professional career. So I think that's all good. As we wrap up, any books or quotes that have been impactful for you on your journey here that you'd share with other people?
No, absolutely. So I actually wrote them down because they sit right here in our office. We've started this kind of initiative this year of reading a book a month with our agents that are actually in the office, kind of like an accountability stuff. But what I love is that everyone gets to do their suggestions. And there was a few that I read on a few years ago that have always stuck with me. And John Maxwell is somebody that I love his books. I think he's always great in what he does. He's been somebody that, I did a lot of like his readings years ago, and Leadershift and then Falling Forward were two of them that I really loved. They're ones that I think of just like, again, what type of leader do I want to be? And then Failing Forward goes right into that, conversation we just had of like the advice that I would give of like, it's every, failure is it's not a failure. It's an opportunity to learn, right? It's an opportunity to see maybe what didn't work. And then the training camp from John Gordon, that one's a little bit of a different one. It's one I feel like I just happened to stumble upon and ended up reading. I was like, this is exactly what I needed, right? Like it's shifting your mindset into that leadership, ownership kind of piece. And then one we just read recently was the How Champions Think by Dr. Rob Rotella, I think is how you say his last name. That one was good. That was one that we read as a team or a department, basically. And it focused on, the way that, so a lot of golf references, if anybody's a golfer out there, I'm not. And so I learned probably more during that piece for the book. But it was just really being able to switch on and off that mentality, again, the champion mindset of everyone. The one piece that always stuck with me, and then we just talked through this through our meeting piece of everyone's going to come to you and tell you that you need a new coach, but that new coach is going to tell you the exact same thing the old coach told you. They're just going to tell you in their form. And so at the end of it, you don't need a new coach. You just need to correct what you are thinking about that, or about the situation. And I thought that was huge, because I was like, how many times have we all sat here and thought, okay, I don't love this, so like maybe I switch companies, right? Or the grass is always greener on the other side kind of mentality. Again, throughout my career, I've had multiple conversations with myself of like, maybe I'll just look, right? Like maybe I'll just see what's out there. Do I want to change professions? Do I want to stay in the industry? People reach out with opportunities. Like, do I look into it? And at the end of the day, I always came back to where I'm at, because of the culture, the people that I work with, and I truly love what I do and get to do. And it's created the life for my now family. We have, twin boys, and It gives me the flexibility to be there for them. And that wasn't possible 10 years ago, and being able to think about, I need to take off on a random Tuesday at 10 a.m. because they have a game, or they have this, talent show or something like that. And so it's nice to be in this position where I've built this path that allows me to now be there for my family. So it's just continuing to build off of that, and hopefully one day it just continues to progress me into an even further part of my career path.
I love it. That's super cool. I'll put those books in the show notes. I was going to ask you, because it made me think earlier. Have you ever seen the movie We Bought a Zoo?
Yes, okay. I have. And if you want to talk about a dream goal, I'm the type of person that will drive on the road and hopes that I see some random dog that I could pick up, which I have done once or twice.
You and my wife would get along. She does. She's been known.
My husband loves that. I sent him a picture and he was like, why? And I was like, well, she was running around on the road, so I'm definitely that person that would love to stumble into those situations, but unfortunately never have.
Well, there's a quote in that. It's one of my favorite quotes from any movie ever. And it's Matt Damon's talking to they're the kid in the movie. And I don't remember all the details, but basically the kid was trying to ask a girl out or something. And the quote basically, and I'm going to butcher the quote.
Yeah. It was his son asking the zoo worker.
That's it. Yeah. And he was like, sometimes all you need is 20 seconds of embarrassing bravery or courage. And I'm like, oh man, that's the greatest thing, because anytime I've used that throughout my career, whether you're nervous about a cold call, or you're nervous about a meeting with an executive, or you're nervous about whatever, it's just do that. Do the one first, just 20 seconds. It might be horrible, and sometimes it is, but just get it out of the way and keep moving forward. To your point earlier, just keep moving forward. But you gotta.
I love that movie. I know exactly what you're talking about. Yeah, he's wanting the girl that still worked there when they brought on. Yeah, his son wanting to ask her out. Love that, because he was referring back to what he did for his wife, his late wife in the movie. And sometimes you do. Sometimes you just need that 20 seconds of just courageous feeling of just do it, right? Leap in and do it. And it's funny talking about our twins. We have one that's going to sit there and think about this and hey, okay, if I jump off this, it's for sure going to break my leg. Maybe we don't. And then we have the other one that's full send, just jump. No questions asked, we'll figure it out later. And I do hope that they, as much as it terrifies me that him just leaping off stuff, but I'm I do hope that they continue to have those moments in life too, of just don't think about it, just jump and, leap into those opportunities. And it's a great reminder for myself that sometimes that's all it takes, just saying yes, seeing what happens. And then you never know. Here we are 11 years later. It was a struggle for a while, especially with my parents for the longest time, not doing anything with my degree, the reason why I went to school, all of these things. And then it was, maybe we should get back into the business degree. This will propel you forward, all of these things. And there was just something telling me that it was just if I'm just willing to learn and I'm willing to dive in and figure it out, that's going to be more appealing than somebody that, went to school for 12 years to do something and maybe use a piece of that degree. Not saying people shouldn't get degrees or anything like that, but, now in the position that I'm in, it's just kind of a full circle moment for my parents to just be, proud of that side of it and working towards it.
Yeah, as they should be, and as you should be as well. So. Well, Jordan, I've absolutely enjoyed talking with you. It's been a great conversation. If someone wants to get in contact with you, they want to learn maybe about being a freight agent, they want to talk about if they should make the jump or not, or they just want to connect with you, what's the best way for them to do that?
Yeah, absolutely. So on our website, we do have the fill out the forms join the team. So you can absolutely do that. There is a section too, if you ever want to, put that they had, listened to our podcast here or, had found us through anything else. My information's also on there as well. More than happy to reach out, directly. We always are open to conversations, regardless if someone's wanting to make the leap, just wants to learn a little bit more, or, just has genuine questions about stuff, Tallgrass in general. More than happy to. Anybody from our team is always open to those, but those would be the best ways to get a hold of us.
Awesome. Cool. Jordan, we appreciate it. We'll talk to you very soon.
Sounds good. Well, thanks, Adrian. I appreciate the time.
Thanks for listening to the Recruiting Stories podcast. If you haven't yet, subscribe wherever you listen to podcasts. Check us out on LinkedIn. Adrian Chapman and Cover 3 Consulting is our company page. Also check out our website, www.cov3consulting.com. Again, thanks for joining us, and we just simply want to remind you that you can change the world by putting people in a position where they can do the most good, and you do that by recruiting. Thanks again for joining us. We'll see you next time.